Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Town of Babylon Zoning Board of Appeals. Please listen to the rules and procedures that will follow for tonight's meeting.
Meeting of the Town of Babylon Zoning Board of Appeals. The following is the procedure that will be followed tonight. The matters will be called in the order they appear in the calendar. The adjourned matters will be called at the end of the regularly scheduled matters. Matters will not be heard prior to the published scheduled time. When your matter is called, please submit the affidavit posted to the secretary and proceed to the podium and give your name and address. The chairperson will then swear you in and read into the record information you have with your application, comments from various town departments, and any correspondence received on your application. The chairperson will then answer you with whatever presentation you wish to make to the board. After you've made your presentation, the board will ask whatever questions the board deems appropriate, and then we will answer comments from the public. If you wish to speak for or against an application, we ask that you wait until you're acknowledged, come forward, give us your name and address, tell us where your property is in relation to the property that's in question tonight, and then please direct your comments to the board, not the applicant or the applicant's representative. We have to keep a record, and we cannot do that if there are people talking over each other or cross conversations. If someone has spoken for or against an application, and they have said exactly the same thing you wish to say, it will have the same force and effect in the record if you give your name and address, are sworn in, and say that you join in those comments. If you have anything additional to say, please don't hesitate to do so. But keep in mind that you will be given only one opportunity to speak. After the public has spoken, the board may ask the applicant to come back to answer any questions that may have come up as a result of the public comments, or for the applicant to summarize. When the applicant comes back to answer the additional questions, if that happens, that does not start the second round of public comments. Once the matter has been heard, various things may occur. The board may decide the application immediately. It may reserve decision. If the board reserves decision, that does not mean the matter is approved or denied. It just means that the board needs more time to decide. They want to go out and look at the site again, or might want to review the documents and testimony further before making a decision. In either event, the applicant will receive the board's decision in writing shortly after the board makes its decision. If the application is approved, that does not mean that you can then go ahead and start construction, or whatever it is that you requested from the board. You will have to wait for the building permit to be obtained from the building department before you go ahead. On some occasions, the matter may be continued for another night. If it is continued, in most cases, it will be for the submission of documents, a new survey, new plans, or something of that nature. If that's the case, no one needs to come back on one day. The documents will be submitted and no further testimony will be taken. On rare occasions, a matter may be continued for future testimony. If that's the case, then people would have to come back to testify. If matters are adjourned in the meeting and scheduled date of hearing, no further notice need be given unless specifically required by the board on the date of the adjournment is granted. 3 rules that may affect your ability to proceed tonight. 1, if the spot is not posted for 10 days, you cannot hold the hearing tonight. 2, if you commence this proceeding while you own the property, but no longer own the property, and you are here now to continue with the application, you will need either the written consent of the new owner or the new owner is present for the hearing. This situation could come about if you sold your house or building, money was held in escrow at closing for a certificate of occupancy or permit, and you're here tonight to clear that up. Lastly, if your application is a commercial application and it's other than a renewal, and there is more than one tenant in the building, then you need your landlord to be here. Is there any applicant that has any difficulty with those situations that would need an adjournment tonight?
Okay, so those directions are basically when we have more applications, there will only be one application today. And just kind of briefly going over it, we're going to call the applicant up. They're going to make their presentation. The board is then going to ask whatever questions the board deems necessary. We will then hear from the public. Whatever questions the public brings up, we will call the applicant back up to answer those questions. There's going to be no back and forth between the applicant and the public. We will answer all questions. Everybody that wants to speak will be given an opportunity to speak. We have a list of people who signed up. Everybody will get that opportunity. You will only have one opportunity to speak. So whatever you want to say, you need to gather your thoughts and present them when you come up. This is not going to go back and forth. It's not that kind of a meeting. So, you know, if you have that opportunity, speak. Whatever questions you bring forth, we will address back to the applicant. The other thing is, I know we have a large audience, and all I ask is that you give each person who's speaking, whether it's the applicant or another resident, the courtesy that you would expect for yourself. You can't have people yelling out and screaming while people are speaking. That's not, you know, going to be the way we conduct this meeting, right? All right, so everybody please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Application is application 20099 of Gale Grace Estates. Property is located in Copiague. Name and address for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Nicole Blanda. I'm an attorney at Gazelle, Blanda, and Visconti with offices at 535 Broad Hollow Road in Melville.
Okay. We have Planning Division memo dated December 15th, 2020. Department of Environmental Control memo dated December 14th, 2020. A negative declaration was previously adopted on this application. A fire marshal's report dated December 17th, 2020. No violations. We have no Suffolk County planning on this application, so that is required, and the application cannot be moved until we have Suffolk County planning comments. That has to come to us. Tax map acting as an area map, a set of plans by Harold Gephardt, dated 05/21/17. I also have 18 letters against the application. These are all basically the same letter signed by different residents in the community, and they're all against it, and don't want a parking lot on that street, that the units new with one-bedroom apartment, and they feel that this will negatively impact the quality of life in the neighborhood. I also have 2 emails. Both of those are also against the application, and for the same reasons. I have a letter from Great South Bay Estates in favor of the application. A letter from the Chamber of Commerce, also in favor of the application. And a letter from the resident at 20 Baylon Avenue, which is just north of the site that we're talking about, who is also in favor of the application. And I think that's everything. Okay, would like to tell us about the application.
So we're here this morning presenting essentially a modified site plan to this board. I had made some packets that I believe you have, and in them is a site plan that I highlighted so that the board can see the parameters of the site that was previously approved back in 2018, and then the addition of the 60 by 100 foot parcel that we're proposing to add to the site. This application was approved by the ZBA in 2018 and then the planning board in 2019. We did have a planning board hearing in person back in September, and we presented the application, and there were comments and feedback that we did receive both from the public and departmentally afterwards. So there were a couple of changes that were made after that presentation. So the project is known as Gale Grace Estates. I think everyone who's here knows that. It was approved as a 3-story, 16-unit, 1-bedroom apartment building. It did receive a parking variance at the time. We received an 8-space parking variance. If the new application is approved, we would be eliminating the parking variance in its totality. Basically, what led us here was a condition that was on the planning board approval. It's in your packet. I took the liberty of highlighting it. It's number 21. And essentially it said there was a concern that we didn't have enough parking. So even though we were granted a parking variance and we could have proceeded the way we were to certificate of occupancy, there was a condition placed on the planning board approval that if there were complaints about spillover parking, perhaps if there was on-street parking as a result of this application, or any substantiated resident complaints, that the planning commissioner could essentially bring the property owner back in front of the planning board, and a situation would arise where we would have to rectify the parking, whether it be to lease further space from an adjacent site or obtain further property for additional parking. So in light of that condition, the property owner did seek out other areas to park. We did approach the shopping center that is just to the east of us. We were told they needed their parking for things that they were doing on their site. We reached out to the property owner of the Wendy's site, and that just was not a viable option. We did look at another property, a residential property that's just to the south of us, but there were too many issues on that property and we weren't able to secure it. So when 30 Baylon came up for sale, we looked at it. It did abut us. It is a split zone parcel, business E and residence C. So it's just south of where it's, like I said, a sliver of it is business E. So it's part of that zoning district to an extent. The rest of it is residence C, which is really why we're here today, to allow the parking to be in that portion of the lot. So if you look at your highlighted site plans, you'll see the line where the zoning district cuts through. So this board previously, if you see all the way to the south where I'm proposing a refuse enclosure, some landscaping, and you see there's parking. Previously, this was approved as parking, and it was approved for a use variance as parking in a residential zone. And so we're seeking to then extend that use variance to permit 11 additional spaces in the residential zone. And that would again eliminate the parking variance in its totality. Based upon comments that we got at planning board, we've adjusted the curb cut on Baylon to only be a right turn in. So no traffic will be traveling south on Baylon. So this would circulate in a way that residents could come down, they would make a right into the property, and then their only option to get out would be back onto Merrick Road. So that was one of the comments. Another comment was screening. I believe we have the rendering that perhaps could be shown on the projector if possible. We added additional screening and buffering. So essentially going from south to north, we would have 30 feet along that southerly portion of landscaping, approximately 15 feet deep. So it creates a much wider landscape island than we were originally proposing. It actually knocked out a parking space, but we still comply. And then there'd be additional landscaping as well as you turn in. So that's the view. We had a rendering done to show the view from the street of what it would look like when all is said and done. We're also proposing, based on a resident's request to the south of our property, an 8-foot fence, an 8-foot white PVC fence along that southerly boundary to provide additional screening in addition to that 5-foot wide buffer that's all along there. Another component of this application is that we're able to have a full refuse enclosure now. So previously, I believe we were approved to have about 10 separate pails that would be brought to Baylon, rolled out, rolled back in. It wasn't ideal, but it was workable, and it was approved. But now we're able to have a refuse enclosure on site in that back corner, close to where Wendy's has its refuse enclosure. And so that's another element of the application as far as improving the site plan. And so if this was approved, what that would do is eliminate some of the conditions or covenants that were placed by the planning board on the approval regarding the refuse enclosure and regarding the need for spillover parking plan in the future if necessary, because like I said, we would comply. Another component is that we were seeking to convert 6 of the units to 2 bedrooms. So it would be 10 1-bedrooms, 6 2-bedrooms. Again, we would still comply with parking, so it does not generate any new variances, and it still meets the parking requirement. As far as any other aspects of the site plan, it's really, the rest of it is remaining the same, as you can see on the plan itself that I highlighted and at the plan that Mr. Esposito has on the screen. So there really isn't any other major changes that are being proposed. We do believe that this would be have a better impact on the overall site and on the community, because we wouldn't have to worry about on-street parking or spillover parking, and that it addresses the concerns of the various departments and even the concerns that perhaps this board may have had about a year and a half ago when it did approve this application. We don't believe it's a self-created hardship because of the condition. But for that condition, Mr. Genie would have just left his site as it was. He would have constructed his building and moved on. He wouldn't have procured further property. There was no need to. So I know we have a lot of people here today, and I know the board probably has some questions. I'm more than happy to answer any of them, or if you'd like me to come back up later, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, I have a couple of questions. As far as the units, why did we convert? Sorry. On the units, why do we convert some of them to 2-bedroom? What was the reasoning behind that?
The reasoning behind it was Mr. Genie spent a considerable amount of money to procure the additional parking and wanted to be able to increase his rent roll. And because we were able to provide the parking and not need a parking variance, we didn't see it as objectionable.
Okay. One other question, and I'm not sure it really pertains to the application here today, but just something for my benefit. Was any thought put into putting a light at the corner of Baylon and Merrick Road?
There's a study going on right now, a traffic signal study, based on the condition on the planning board approval. Mr. Genie was required to, I believe it was roughly $6,500 to contribute to the study, and Cameron Engineering is conducting a traffic study right now. It is underway.
Okay, so that's something, that's a state road there, right?
It's right. It's at the end of the day, it's the DOT's decision, but it is being conducted.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? That's all I have.
At the moment, no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, first up is a Diane, and pardon me if I mispronounced the last name, so I'm going to do the best I can here. Diane and Stephen Forward.
We have to go in the order that all, we would rather have him go first because he's representing everyone here. Too.
Okay, that's fine.
So go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Stephen Costantino, from Costantino LLP, 632 Merrick Road, Copay. I'm sorry, I'm here on behalf of numerous homeowners along Baylon Avenue and the surrounding neighborhood to oppose this application. I want to start off by trying to eliminate any confusion regarding the supposed split zone of this property. I want to start off by attempting to eliminate any confusion that there may be regarding what's alleged to be split zoning on this parcel. Ms. Blanda described that split zoning as a sliver. To the extent that split zoning exists, it exists between C residents and E business, not C residents and multiple residence dwellings. So the application really is in connection with that split zoning to convert that sliver which by the rough calculations I was able to make by looking at the map that was presented, appears to be approximately 30 square feet. The property at 30 Baylon is 60 by 100 or 6,000 square feet. So at best, the part of the property that's zoned e-business is if I'm not mistaken, 1/200 of the property at issue. To the extent it's zoned e-business, e-business prohibits residential use. Now, I know that this board in 2018 granted extensive variance relief in order to rehabilitate what certainly you couldn't disagree. This was an unsightly and deteriorated site. But the variance relief that was granted in order to construct this project is significant, almost colossal. For example, multiple residence zoning requires minimum setbacks from the street of not less than 40 feet. The setback that was granted in the variance relief is less than 5 feet. That's a 78.5% reduction. Multiple residence zoning requires total side yards of not less than 80 feet. Those were reduced to less than 8 feet, a 90% reduction in code requirements. Multiple residence zoning requires rear yards of not less than 50 feet. Those were reduced to less than 5 feet. That's another 90% reduction. Density. The Baylon Town Code specifically requires particular calculations of density for multiple residence use. In order to put in, under the code, 16 one-bedroom units, the minimum parcel that would be required was 64,000 square feet. I would like to submit to the board first the 2000, I'll submit all of these at the end, the 2019-2020 tax bill for the parcel upon which the apartment complex was constructed. That tax bill is significant because it includes dimensions of the two lots that were merged together in order to create this parcel. Those two lots collectively, based on the tax bills that the town keeps on file, measured 20,132 square feet. The reduction that was given in order to construct this unit is more than 75% less than was required by code. In addition, I previously had filed a FOIL request calling for the plans and specs to show the square footage of what existed previously and what exists now. There was apparently some confusion or ambiguity in my request, and I was unable to get it. But what I was able to get was a title survey to the property at the time it was acquired by Mr. Giannini. I had an architect scale out the pre-existing structure, which was 2 stories. That architect determined that the structure that previously existed had approximately 3,765 square feet per floor for 2 floors, or 7,530 total square feet. I then had him scale out an approximation of the building as drawn, and we did it conservatively. We did not extend the building lines to Baylon Avenue as they currently exist. The building as constructed now is 8,105 square feet per floor, or 24,315 square feet. That's 122% larger than the site upon which the building lies. Multiple residence zoning limits height of buildings to 2.5 floors. This building is 3 floors. It's 17% variance on it. So, to the extent any application is sought here, expanding the 1-bedroom limit to 2 bedrooms, it is certainly not warranted. The site is completely overbuilt as it exists. And what's significant about that is in order for this board to have granted the initial application, the board had to have made a determination that the parking as it existed was sufficient to cover the building as it exists. And so in terms of expansion, there has been no change in circumstances relevant to that site plan. And the applicant's acquisition of the premises at 30 Baylon Avenue and whatever cost may be associated with that is, as a matter of law, not justification for that change to the site plan. Now, with respect to the rezoning or variance use that's requested at 30 Baylon, first, I'm going to submit to the board several photographs, aerial photographs of the surrounding neighborhood. Every single parcel fronting on Baylon Avenue is a one-family dwelling. I have photographs that were downloaded from Google Earth that show satellite photos of the entire neighborhood, as well as several different photos of Baylon Avenue looking north. The area is exclusively residential. There is not one use on Baylon Avenue other than residential. So, to the extent this application seeks to introduce multiple residence zoning, whether it's for parking or anything else, into a one-family neighborhood, the showing that's required by statute has not been made. Whether you call it split zoning or use variances, the applicant, as a matter of statutory law, was required to make a showing in order for this board to even consider the application, that there is true economic hardship, that the property cannot in any way, shape, or form generate a reasonable return based upon factors that are unique to this parcel. And those factors simply cannot be self-created as a matter of law. There is no mathematical proof before this board regarding any economic hardship on the applicant's part. But in order to simply show that there can't be, I'm going to ask the board to allow me to submit. I have the deed of acquisition for this parcel, which was acquired in January of this year. The official records of the Suffolk County Clerk disclose that this property was acquired for the total purchase price of $295,000. I also would ask the board to consider an article from Newsday, which was posted in the last 30 days, indicating that the average price of housing on Long Island has increased by 17% since the acquisition of this property. I have 5 separate records from multiple listings of properties actually sold on Baylon Avenue. There were 5 separate parcels sold on Baylon Avenue for an average purchase price of $431,000. There is not one iota of mathematical proof before this board that's required by statute. Section 267B of the town law expressly prohibits this board from considering a use variance in the absence of that mathematical proof. There is no mathematical proof of any hardship whatsoever. Only that it may be more aesthetically pleasing to some, and it may allow the applicant a better parking plan. But that is not now, nor has it ever been, a basis for the grant of the use variance. When I appeared before the planning board, I opposed this based upon what I said was spot zoning. And I'm sure the board has seen that application and seen that opposition. But spot zoning is essentially defined as the singling out of one parcel and the reclassification of that parcel for the benefit of the property owner and to the detriment of the surrounding neighborhood. There is not one iota of proof of any benefit to anyone other than this applicant. Quite the contrary. It's kind of ironic that we're here today, because Town Park is not only the most beautiful park in the town of Babylon, but it is probably the busiest. I mean, the facilities here are tremendous. It's one of the town's biggest boat launches, one of the town's biggest marinas, 14 baseball fields, a lit AstroTurf football field, a lit AstroTurf soccer field, a beach, a water park, a fishing pool, a skate park, 4 tennis courts, 4 basketball courts, a children's playground, this senior citizen center, and the largest outdoor concert venue in Western Suffolk County. In 2019, before the pandemic, more than 60,000 people attended outdoor concerts at the facility immediately behind us. There are only 2 ways to get here, Baylon Avenue or Wilson Avenue. So the introduction of any additional traffic on Baylon Avenue, a thoroughfare that is already overburdened, simply cannot benefit the surrounding neighborhood. When I was in law school, I had a professor for real property who was a tremendous scholar. His name was Pat Rowan. He wrote most of the real property laws, and he was a zoning expert. And when we got to zoning, some of the zoning rules were kind of hard to understand. I went to see him and he said, listen, you want to understand this stuff? Get this book. It's called Smith and Boyer's Survey of Property. It'll explain it to you in the simplest terms. And there's a section in that book about the introduction of apartment houses into a residential area. I'm just going to read you a part of that. When the apartment building moves into an area, it is a well-known fact that its presence constitutes a blight to the adjoining area zoned for single-family dwellings. With its coming, there appear long rows of automobiles parked alongside the curbs on both sides of the street. Traffic immediately becomes congested and accidents increase. Such buildings are built at such height so as to restrict sunshine from reaching the ground in many directions nearby. Little room is left on the sides for sunshine, shrubbery, grass or trees, and very often there is no uncovered space in the rear of such structures. They are built for commercial purposes only and built to cover the entire area available for building purposes. That's exactly what we have here. This building has been built in a manner to cover essentially every square foot possible. It could have been built with 12 units, and the pre-existing curb cuts that existed on Baylon Avenue could have been utilized to create access to the parking lot that 30 Baylon is now sought for. But that wasn't done, whether it be for economic reasons or other. So to the extent that possibility was passed up, to pass the burden of providing access to that parking lot to one-family residents that are already overburdened with the most highly trafficked residential roadway in the town of Babylon is not only in violation of the statutes that I just described, especially with no mathematical proof, it's unconscionable. So in the final analysis, I submit to you clearly and unequivocally, Section 267B of the town law specifically says to this board, you may not grant this application in the absence of the mathematical hardship information that I described earlier. The record not only is completely devoid of that mathematical information, with the documents that I will submit, you will see that this house can be immediately sold at a profit or rented at a profit. And that being the case, regardless of aesthetics, regardless of how nice that may look, it cannot be granted as a matter of law. And I would respectfully urge this board to deny the application in its entirety. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Any questions from the board? Yeah, thank you.
I'll put the exhibits together and hand them to you.
Yeah, hand off to the secretary.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Diane and Stephen.
Name and address for the record,
Oh,
please.
135 Baylon Avenue, Stephen Holt first.
And you affirm to tell the truth?
Yes,
Would you like to tell us?
I just want to say that it is ridiculous that you would try to put a parking lot in between two residential homes. It would be ridiculous to put a parking lot in the middle of a residential homes. And I can't understand how it's even being considered. No matter how good that looks, there's gonna be a garbage truck going in and out of there all the time. It's not gonna go around the building, it's gonna back out. That's just one of the things. So how do you justify putting a parking lot in between two residential homes? I'm asking you, how do they justify that? You're the board, I was trying to understand.
They are allowed to present the case, they are allowed to submit an application, and that's why people are here today to decide, and the board will decide whether that is something that can go forward.
Okay, I just didn't understand how it even got this far. A lot of times when they submit plans and they show you that it's no way that it should be this way, that you would just deny it and we wouldn't even be here.
We can't deny anything unless we have a hearing, and the public's allowed to speak, the applicant's allowed to speak, so that's how the laws read, so.
Okay, now I understand. So anyway, that's what I have to say as far as I can't understand that they would even try to put a parking lot in between two residential homes.
Okay.
All right,
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Next applicant.
Next up is Andrew Meyerowitz. Hope I got that right. Yeah.
Good morning,
Name and address for the record, please.
Andrew Meyer with 145 Baylon Avenue.
Okay, and you affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Would like to start. So,
That's the one for everyone at home.
we are recording this. It's also going to be on YouTube, so that's what all this mics and stuff are about.
We know that you're on YouTube. We've been watching.
Okay.
So I'm here today from the Baylon Avenue Homeowners Alliance,
And you are
the president of
you're the
it.
president,
Yes.
and you're authorized by the Alliance to speak for them?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll tell you real quick, we are a new group. And the only reason we are a group is because of this proposal that has been put in front of the board here. I represent over 100 families that live on Baylon and the surrounding community. We say no, period. No parking lot on Baylon Avenue. As a representative for this group, I personally met with the planning board commissioner and Mr. Giannini at the site. We brought up several issues of what's going on at that site. Since then, a stop work order has been issued based on our comments to the planning board about what's going on. The fact that this is in front of you guys right now is ridiculous. And these plans that you look at, I suggest you guys look real close, because I'm not a professional at this, and I saw the plans and they're a mess. The fact that this made it this far is ridiculous. The last set of plans that he's working off of right now, miraculously, there's 10 more air conditioning units that were installed along the property line with the neighboring home. There are 16 air conditioning units lining the property line with the house next door, under the daughter's bedroom. The generator was not put in where it belonged. He just put it wherever he wanted it, basically on the neighbor's front lawn. The site plan originally was not looked at with the community in mind. There's a commercial side of this property. Why all the equipment was not put on the commercial side of this property next to the Wendy's is beyond me. But I bet it's because it was going to take up parking spots, which he needed to get the variance in the first place. The taking down of a single family home to put in a parking lot. Beautiful picture. Where are the vehicles that are in that parking lot? Where are the vehicles that all the neighbors are going to have to see? Where is the garbage truck going to go when it pulls out if it can't fit under the overpass that he built? The absolute disregard by the applicant to the neighbors is beyond. And one of the main issues we have is he's been using Baylon Avenue as a loading zone on the corner. And with this building being as large as it is, we turn onto Baylon Avenue for Montauk Highway. You can't see more than 5 feet down Baylon Avenue. It becomes a blind turn. He's had vehicles sitting within 5 feet of Montauk Highway all day long working on the building. That was a no parking zone to begin with. He removed the sign while he was doing work and has been parking there. That's been addressed with him in front of the planning board commissioner. Just the other day, on Wednesday, I turned the corner and there was a box truck sitting there unloading furniture with Mr. Giannini sitting across the street watching. The absolute blatant disregard for the rule of no parking on the corner that we brought up to him several times is completely dismissed. The neighborhood does not want Mr. Giannini as a neighbor. It's pretty hard to say that because we welcome everybody into our neighborhood. But he has been an unwanted neighbor this entire time. This property was overbuilt. Moving it down and encroaching on our community is absolutely unacceptable. We have 85 handwritten signatures here and over 300 online that I will print out and submit to the board via mail before the record is closed because we are still collecting signatures on that. I just want to say one more thing about a couple of the letters of approval or of support of this project. To sit there and say that the Chamber of Commerce approves this project, when I personally know multiple chamber members who do not approve this project, is ridiculous. And the chamber president should be ashamed of herself for writing that letter and signing the Chamber of Commerce's name to it. Just because Mitch is a member of the Chamber of Commerce and he makes donations to the chamber doesn't mean that he should get granted approvals to do things that aren't allowed. And I've been a community activist my entire life. I work for a not-for-profit organization and I don't get paid for that position. I volunteer. And to have a community organization such as the Chamber of Commerce or the Town of Babylon Beautification Ambassador come out and say that this is a beautiful project and all of Mitch's projects are welcomed in this community is absolutely mind-boggling because that is not the opinion of the people of this community. And with that, I'm going to leave it to the rest of the residents to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kathy Gullo.
Hi, my name is Kathy Gullo. I live at 290 West Riviera Drive, Lindenhurst. I'm a board member of the American Venice Civic Association. You tell him. Okay, can you hear me? Okay,
Do you affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
And ma'am, are you going to speak too, or
Sure, I'll speak.
you need your name and address, please?
All right, my name is Lucille Deem. I live at 130 West Riviera Drive in Lindenhurst.
And do you affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Okay, what would you like to tell us, ladies?
Okay, my name is Kathy, and I'm a board member of the American Civic Association, American Venice Civic Association, and I'd like to hand in this petition that we had going on. We have 308 signatures as of last night when I printed it. And it's a simple statement. It was our position of taking down a single-family residential home for parking lots in between other neighbors' homes is unacceptable, and it should never be considered. It sets a dangerous precedent for other projects to do the same. By passing this, they are also trying to slip in two-bedroom apartments when it was never planned for two-bedroom apartments, and they just keep trying to put it in the back door. If the fence gets passed, then we can have two-bedroom apartments. If this parking lot gets passed, then we're gonna have two bed. We were at the hearing where it was definitely turned down. The neighborhood did not want two-bedroom apartments, but he's still trying to slip it in. So I feel that this is nothing but greed. The building was overbuilt. If he did not have the parking for what he was building, he should have scaled it down. The town should be ashamed for letting it get this far out of hand. The building is a monster on the corner. The sidewalks are not wide enough. It's very dangerous. Yesterday, when the snow plows came through, they were throwing snow onto his sidewalk it was 15 feet up on the building because the building is so close to the street. I would never want to be a resident of the first floor because rocks are gonna go through. It's a ridiculous plan. It should have never been approved. It's disgusting what he's doing to our community, and we need to stop it and not let him set precedents by removing a perfectly fine home in a residential area, not even next to his building, for parking lot. This has to be knocked down. And here's my petition.
So as everybody can see, nobody is in favor of this. I haven't heard one person come up here and speak that they think this is a great idea and we should add more property. Give this guy the opportunity to increase all the traffic that's already in there now. His building was permitted at a certain space and a certain occupancy. Leave it at that. That's not enough, right? He's got to be greedy and he's got to put 2 bedrooms up in there to increase rent. It's ridiculous the way it stands now. It's so close to the street. The traffic, number one, and the accidents that it's gonna cause, and put another traffic light there, there's another one like 30 feet away from that. It's gonna create more congestion. This is the only way to get down to Town and Park, as everybody was saying. The garbage trucks, the additional noise that it's gonna create. It's just not fair. It's really not fair what you're doing to a waterfront community, people that live here for a long time, that value and have this residency, and now you're putting commercial buildings right there on the corner. It's not big enough. Have you guys gone past it and seen it? It's a disgrace. It really is that we have permitted this to like be right on top of Merrick Road. You see snowplows go past on residential streets, they blow out fences, and they're set way further back on the street. Where these buildings stand right now, it shouldn't have been allowed. It's really disgraceful, honestly. I think you're ruining the neighborhood, and to give this guy any more opportunity to increase it and make it bigger is a mistake. It really is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathleen Revolt.
Name and address for the
Are you
record.
Kathleen?
No, we are John and Brooke Belvano. We're
25 Baylon.
we're number 39 on the list.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry,
Drop the line.
I know, sorry.
Name and address for the record.
We are John and Brooke Belvano, 25 Baylon Avenue. We are directly across from the beautiful picture.
You were both the firm to tell the truth?
We
Yes.
do.
Okay. Go ahead, let's like that.
Though it is a beautiful picture, where's the other side of that? Which would affect our house and the neighbors on the sides of us. They affect our neighbors across the street. They affect our neighbors down the street. Though a beautiful project, what happens to the rest of us? Anyone who's in favor of his project, where are they? Are they here?
Just those people in the corner over there with Mr.
Okay.
Giannini.
We can't, you want to talk, you need to talk to
Yes.
us. Okay?
This project has so far been nothing but a disaster. The man has showed not one sign of respect for the neighborhood. He gave 20 Baylon some evergreens, lied to him, told him that the parking lot was gonna be down at the end of the thing, the driveway. The man was gonna be here right now, he'd be very pissed off. You can't get into this list. You guys have made this a huge issue with everything else going on here. To come down here on a Saturday just for this guy to get more rooms is ridiculous. I don't know what else to say. I've had the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Giannini face to face. With his words, the man told me he can do whatever he wants in this town. He's a businessman. And that's it. He doesn't care about the town around here. He did a nice thing by taking down the Tan and Ice building, could have built a 2-bedroom, a 2-story building, would have been done already right now, rented out, done.
But now we're getting into building a parking lot in a residential neighborhood where people, we have 2 children who will now be directly across from the
There's
parking
12
lot.
children in that, there's 12 children in those 6 houses right over there. in that
Everyone
neighborhood.
surrounding that parking lot has children.
All the children that walk up and down Baylon Avenue the whole time too, while he sits on the corner with his trucks and the thing, and then he wants to talk about people blocking the street. Ridiculous. You're a ridiculous man. I want you to come up here.
Whoa. Right here.
I
You
want-
cannot do that.
I want him to
You
come up here
cannot-
himself and
you
speak the
cannot
man himself.
Do that.
All right.
You
I want the
cannot
man to
do
speak
that.
himself.
This is not
I
how
wanna
this
hear
meeting's
from
gonna
his
be
voice.
conducted. And if you can't conduct yourself, please leave.
We have had to deal with a lot of things in these last few months since the building has started to be built. Our streets have been shut down. We've had no access.
Sir, please leave. Please leave.
We've had no access in or out some days. And we've been told by Mr. Giannini himself, it's not his fault. Not his fault. What he says also is that the town told him he has to build the two-bedroom apartments. He had to go 3 stories because the town told him to. He bought the property because the town told him to. That's what he has said. He has shaken hands with every neighbor in our neighborhood and lied straight to our faces. That's the blatant disregard that we're angry about. My husband's angry. We have 2 kids to worry about. We have neighbors that we actually love and respect, and we worry about them too. Our neighbors walk up and down the street. They have animals. This is ridiculous. Though beautiful, very dangerous.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Kathleen Revolt. Try that again.
Name and address for the record, please.
I'm John Scrivola, 270 West Riviera Drive.
Ma'am,
Same address. Kathy Revolt.
you both affirm to tell the truth?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
would like to tell us.
Hi, I'm on the board of the American Venice Civic Association. And, okay,
Just the mic to your face.
I'm on the board with the American Venice Civic Association.
Are you here representing them or are you on the board?
I'm on the board.
Are you representing the board?
Yes,
But you have the authority to represent the board? Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
all right. The apartments, they look beautiful. When you go to buy a car online or something, it all looks good until you get there. You're putting up too many in the town of Baylon, too many apartments. The schools are not gonna handle it. Our taxes are gonna go up with the schools, because where these kids are gonna go to school. Now you're gonna make them 2 bedrooms. 1 bedroom, all right, you get away with it. Also, another thing, he has all this no parking. What about snow removal? I'm a contractor for a bunch of these senior citizen complexes. Snow removal. Where do you put all the snow? You're gonna let them put it in town of town park?
No.
Yeah, no. So where's he gonna do? He can't put it in the street. It's against the law.
Excuse me?
I'm not for it. I'm here to support everybody on Baylon. So that was mine.
Thank you. May I speak? You agree with him? Thank you.
Christine Sayevich.
Name and address for the record.
21 East Neptune Avenue in Lindenhurst.
You gotta take that.
21 East Neptune Avenue in Lindenhurst.
You affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
What would you like to tell us?
I just have one question for the whole board. When you look at this, do you ever envision yourself living next door to this? Do you ever? I mean, this is the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen. I have lived in Copac all my life. I've watched all this happen. 3-story building within 5 feet, like Stephen said, which is totally out of line and out of whatever, is ridiculous. How this passed in the first place is horrible. I think the whole building should be leveled myself personally. Start over. As far as that goes, I wouldn't want to live next to it. You wouldn't want to live next to it. You wouldn't want your families to live next to it. This is a travesty. This is just out of control and ridiculous. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Tom Colello. Tom,
Just making sure that battery's good, so. Just make sure when you come up, adjust it as you need,
Brian, why don't you try moving it to the side?
The only thing is, if I move it to the side, you gotta talk directly into it, so,
Alright, so
hopefully this is easier
it
for you guys.
Yeah, give it a shot.
That looks like it's gonna slip. Is Tom here?
Tom available? Is there Helena Christie?
Come on up. Name and address for the record, please,
115 Baylon Avenue, Copay.
and your name,
Helena Christie.
and do you affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Okay. Would you like to tell us?
Well, I'd like to tell you that I think I did everything that everybody else said beforehand. I think this whole thing is an atrocity. It's just unbelievable to have a parking lot in between houses and the traffic that it will create. And I'd like to say to the voters, I think we need a clean sweep of town hall. You know, when people come up for re-election from town hall, vote them all out. I don't care who it is, and they'll take all these other people that are associated with them out too. It's like a pit of vipers. That's all I have to say about this.
Thank you.
Danielle Peppers. Danielle. All right, John Boyd.
Can everybody hear me okay? John Vogt, 264 West Lido Promenade, Lindenhurst. I am the chairman of the American Venice Civic Association. I am representing them. I'm also a member of the Baylon Avenue Homeowners Alliance, the American Venice Civic Association, the Copay Harbor, or the Amity Harbor Civic Association. We started a coalition, and together we are against the encroachment into the residential areas with these parking lots and multiple dwellings. Everybody talked earlier. I'm not going to rehash what was said about the law, the emotions, and everything else. All I can tell you is I came from Queens, and growing up, we had one family wood frame houses that were bought up one after another. Multiple family dwellings were put on there. If you go in there now, it's a disaster. People have removed whatever front lawns they had. They park cars on there because you can't park in the street. And I hate to say, parts of the Venice, parts over here are starting to turn into the same thing. So we're going to add more density to an area with no solutions in sight. It's just going to be a disaster for everybody. So again, like I said, I don't want to rehash what was had. I was going to tell everybody, good morning, nice to see you. But it started off as good morning and quickly went downhill. But again, to all the other people here, I thank them for coming out and thank you for taking time to hear our concerns.
Thank
Thank
you. Thank you.
Sharon Fataruso. Sure, I messed that one. No. Beth Constantino.
Good
Name and
morning.
address for the record.
Sure, Beth Costantino, 45 Baylon Avenue.
Are you confirm to tell the truth?
Yeah.
What would you like to tell?
So I just want to, support everybody here in opposition to this travesty. It really is disturbing, the way we've gotten here. And people have said, gee, you should have opposed it earlier. We've been opposing it. We've been opposing it from the beginning. So that kind of doesn't fly. We've been trying, and we're still going to be trying, because what has happened here, in my opinion, is that the town has done a wink, wink, nod, nod, do this, and then it'll be too late. Do that, and then it'll be too late for them to argue it. So I really do feel like we've been hoodwinked on this one, and it needs to be stopped. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's unsafe. The density situation is unbelievable. The traffic, none of you would want to live in my house in the summer, particularly, none of you. And it's going to affect our values, and it's just not fair. It's just not right. So I support everybody else, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Sir Barbara Sequoia. Ken Brussel. Oh, I'm sorry.
Then we need your name and address.
250 Baylon Avenue, Dawn Rip.
Dawn, what was the last name?
Dawn Rip. I live across the street from the huge high-rise that was replaced after Sandy. When the owner went to go get the variance for the garage, two neighbors went up against it. Your own board said that the garage wasn't in keeping with the tone of Baylon Avenue. It was more appropriately situated in Copeg Harbor. There were two people against the garage, the driveway, the three-car thing, and the boats. Town ordinance is what, 14 feet? Garage can't be higher than 14 feet? This thing is 30. We walked away from that meeting with you letting us believe that that was going to be rejected. I looked at a 3-story garage with apartment buildings on top of it. Enough. You guys do whatever you want when we're not looking. And it's unfair. I also want to know why the concrete doesn't match. That apartment building on the corner got 2 different shades of concrete. How would you think that'd go over in Old Westbury? Would they let the light concrete and the dark concrete because they misjudged how much concrete they were going to need? We also pay taxes here. On Baylon Avenue, you try walking down it with Mike while you're walking your dog, you take your life in your hands. You want to add more cars to that street. We've had accidents on Baylon Avenue that the tree nearly killed the girl in the car because she didn't stop at the corner, because nobody stops at the corners. And you want to put more cars on the block. The Venetian looks like it's some type of, I don't know, Club Med vacation. Ours looks like a hellhole. Nobody does anything for it. Nobody picks up the garbage. Nobody chases the kids that are on the roof of the building. You guys are horrible.
Thank you.
Ken Brussel.
Name and
Good
address
morning.
for the record, please.
Ken Russell, 50 East Kissimmee Road, Lindenhurst.
And you affirm to tell the truth?
Absolutely.
Would like to tell.
So I have some concerns. I understand that there's a traffic study that's being done. I know that the corner is pretty blind when making a turn out of Baylon. I get concerned when I come back from an event at Tanner Park. There is a lot of traffic. So doing a traffic study in the middle of the winter, in the middle of the pandemic, doesn't really show the true traffic that's going on Baylon. I'm worried about setting a precedent for this sort of usage and change in the community. I'm to understand that there's 2 houses between the apartment building and the proposed conversion. If this application is approved, what's to stop the other 2 houses from being converted later? Building the apartment building should have been, it should have been taken into account in necessary parking. It's great that they got their variance. They should have to deal with that. Another concern I have is how does this affect taxes paid on that parcel? I have no idea. The artist's rendering is beautiful. I have to hand the artist kudos for that. The only thing that's missing in there are the cars. It's not an accurate depiction. I'm also concerned about converting a 2-bedroom apartment this late in the game. This is like, where did this come from? If the fire inspector came already and inspected and approved the construction, are the 2-bedroom units already built? So that's all I got there. Thanks.
And Suarez.
Morning,
Morning. Name and address for the record, please.
50 East Kissimmee Road, Lindenhurst, New York.
And do you affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
What would you like to tell us?
Basically, I have the same concerns as everybody else. I come down Montauk Highway at least twice a day. I work at Farmingdale. That is a very blind corner. I have to say, even during the pandemic with less traffic, I've seen several near misses there. Lastly, I also have the same question. If they already did all the inspections, can we go through and do a walkthrough? I have a feeling 2 bedrooms are already there. Thank you.
They haven't, let me just say this, the final inspections have not been done, okay? It was not approved, they do not have a CO at this point in time, so. All right.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Gloria Cipriano.
Morning, name and
Good
address for the
morning.
record.
Good morning. Gloria Cipriano, 125 Kerrigan Road. I'm on the corner of Baylon.
I do affirm to tell the truth.
I do.
Yes, would like to tell.
I'd like to address the board. As elected or appointed officials, my understanding is that you are to uphold the guidelines and codes. Apparently, that hasn't happened. Somehow or the other, this building, with all its exceptions, has been allowed to be built. I'd like to know how that happened. Can you answer that question?
We're not here to necessarily, we are here to grant variances from the code on any project or any house or anything else. That's what our duty
Well,
is.
apparently you've already done that for this, and it's definitely not within the code. So how did it happen?
There was variances, there was a hearing, people came out, and that's what happened.
And so is the same thing gonna happen now to the parking lot?
We'll determine that after we look at everything, listen to what everybody has said today, and then, we'll make our decision.
Well, in view of what everybody has said today, it is apparent that there are restrictions as to going forward with that project. Am I right?
Yes, that's what they're here for today. They're here to ask relief from what the code is. That's what they're here for today.
Okay, so again, I'll say, apparently that has happened in the past.
That happens. We hold meetings every Thursday night, and we grant variances to very many residents and very many houses. That's what we do as the zoning board of appeals. They appeal to the town code to, lessen what the variances may be on anything, houses, everything. I mean, we hear the gamut of everything, so.
Without consideration to the people that
It's
reside
always
there.
with consideration to the people. It's always with consideration to, if you're the homeowner and you're coming here and you're asking us to give you, I don't know, you want to build something, you need a side yard variance or something of that nature. You come here, you ask us for that variance, and we decide, should we give it that variance? We take into account what you as the homeowner is asking for, and if any residents come out or anybody has any problems with it, what their problem is. That's what we do as a zoning board.
That's exactly my point.
And everything
that
we do is published. And everybody in the neighborhood is notified of what.
After the fact.
No.
Well, letters are sent out, signs are posted, this is all out there.
Well, there's obviously many violations that have been taking place, and obviously they have not been addressed. So I don't think you really answered the question.
Well,
Okay.
that's what we do, and when it comes here, that's what we do as far as that. Now, are there violations out there? We don't go out there and look for violations. They are either brought by the homeowner, they're brought by the town, somebody goes out and inspects, so on and so forth. That's how the violations are brought. And that's when they come to the zoning board to get relief from the zoning code, and that's what we do.
Well,
You can't speak.
I am asking this planning board to take into consideration everything that has been said here today and to put in place the proper laws, rules, regulations, codes that are for the betterment of the entire community and not one person. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gene Murray.
How are you?
All right, name and address for the record.
My name is Gene Murray. I live at 9 Cape Road, Amity Harbor, New York. I'm the vice president of the Amity Harbor Civic Association. With me is,
And I'm Steve Beck. I live on Cape Road as well, and I am president of the Amity Harbor Civic Association.
we are here representing the Civic
You both
Association.
affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
What would you like to say?
Okay. As John said earlier, we formed a coalition of civic associations with the Baylon Civic Association, the Amity Harbor Civic Association, and the American Venice Civic Association. And one of our major concerns, town of Babylon is a great place to live, beautiful parks, beautiful beaches, but the urbanization of it has gotten out of control. And letting them make those apartments, it's 2-bedroom apartments, and putting a parking lot in the middle of a residential neighborhood, that's something we're all against. I mean, we back everything that everyone here said here today. We're firmly against the parking.
Thank you.
And in the immortal words of Joni Mitchell, everybody remembers her. Well, some of you do. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paved paradise and put up a parking lot.
Thank you. And I do.
Gary Brooks.
Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning. 11 Cape Road, Amity Harbor, New York. I also represent the Amity Harbor Civic Association. I sit on the board.
You affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, I do. It's a little confusing. Well, first, let me say, I'm not going to be able to top what the first person, the attorney, spoke in regards to the calculations and what has taken place in regards to the project. But what I will say is, I'm bothered that the town of Babylon and that the board would allow the members, the family members that live in this area to be so upset about a project like this, how they would allow this to continue to go on. That's my concern, that you don't see what's going on here. And if it wasn't for COVID, the Amity Harbor Civic Association represents, there are roughly 845 houses in Amity Harbor. So that's over 1,000 family members. I'm very confident that had it not been for COVID, this place would have been overwhelmed. Overwhelmed. So the timing of this project is perfect. It's perfect. Nobody wants to be out here. You can easily slip something like this in. Just like you're doing a study in regards to the traffic when everyone's working from home. There's no consideration on, or foresight of what this project is going to happen. It's gonna happen because of this. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deborah Acuraria, apologize. Okay, B. Artel.
Name and address for the record, please.
36 Baylon Avenue, Copac. My name is B. Bartali.
You confirm and tell the truth.
Yes, I do.
Looks like
I live at 36 Baylon Avenue, right next door to the infamous 30 Baylon. Me and my wife Janice have lived there for 32 years. She could not be here today. She works at the hospital. And as you all know, there are no days off at a hospital now. I've spoken here before, and I don't want to talk about traffic lights and zoning and all of that technical stuff. I do want to say, first off, I just wanted to address the sign issue. Some of my neighbors are probably wondering why B and Janice do not have a sign stuck in their lawn, okay? I applaud everyone and I support everyone. I just want to stick a sign in my lawn. Because you see, 32 years ago, when we moved into that little house, and we chose to live in that neighborhood, in that residential area, with a house over here and a house over there and a house over there. Some of the people weren't so happy to have a gay couple move onto their block. And so we had to fight to stay where we were and be happy. We would walk down to Tanner and teenagers would throw rocks at us and call us nasty names. It was a black pickup truck. Two guys used to ride down Tanner and call us every name in the book. My point is that we lived there. We chose to live there. We didn't move. We didn't say, God, these people are horrible. We worked hard. We mowed our grass and took out our trash. And we respected our neighbors until they learned to respect us back. And we fought to stay there to protect our happiness, our security. Back then, our safety. And now, 32 years later, I'm standing here fighting to protect those very same things that we've already earned the right to. Our safety, it is an issue. We know it. People who live on Baylon know it. There's nothing like a boat on a trailer stuck across the front of your driveway when you need to go to work. Okay, that's the truth. And this definitely gonna make it worse. Definitely. Right. So that little house next door, it's been my neighbor's house, whoever they were. It's been sold, it's been rented, it's been sold, it's been rented. And it didn't matter how long those people stayed in that house. They were our neighbors. They waved to us, they cut their grass, they took out the trash. It's how it is in a residential area. The place all of us have chosen to live. You know, if we hadn't chosen to live in a residential area, we would have bought that cheap house in the factory district. But we didn't. We chose this is what we wanted. We understand that this is all, you know. I have to say, I stood in front of a planning board some years ago, probably not you guys, but I have a Wendy's in my backyard. I don't know if any of you can say that. I have a Wendy's in my backyard. And before they built that Wendy's, somebody applied for the variance or whatever he did. And I came here and I said, really, you know, that Wendy's, here's my backyard. Here's the Wendy's. And the Wendy's attorneys were standing there. We didn't have that technology. They had a tripod like that with a picture of Wendy's. Right down in the little corner over there was a little structure. So some of the people that were protesting, even though I was really the only residential property it butt up against, it also butt up against Mitchell's property now, but then that was not his. It was used for storage of work vehicles, who knows? I don't even know what it was then. But when people said, what's that structure down in the corner of this big, beautifully painted sign of Wendy's, you could almost smell the cheeseburgers. And the attorney said in the microphone, that house belongs to that lady over there. I was like, yeah, me, that's my house on your picture. All right, so I had my concerns then, and I addressed the planning board. I said, wait, where's that dumpster gonna go? And the attorney came up with the papers and he said, not a dumpster. It's a state-of-the-art trash compactor. Really? You have a state-of-the-art 17-year-old that's gonna be bringing the garbage out to it? All right? Mind you, the state-of-the-art, I'm just trying to say, sometimes we didn't have any civic associations, blah, 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 blah. We didn't have any of that. We didn't even have any police when people were throwing rocks at us. Okay? Nobody wanted to deal with that. So we just did not stick any signs in our front lawn. We didn't wave any rainbow flags. We kept to ourselves. And now we're respected by the people on that block. All right? So I have a dumpster from Wendy's opposite my bedroom window. All right. When I asked what happened to the state-of-the-art trash compactor, they said the day they delivered it, it fell off the truck and broke. So they put a dumpster there. I've had to come to Baylon Town Hall because there's all kinds of trash. The gate is left open. Okay. Long story short, I also have a drive-up window opposite my bedroom. Right. So when I came to appeal to the planning board then, it was just me and my wife alone. There was nobody else that was really objecting to it because they didn't live right there. They didn't have a little chain link fence in between them and the dumpster. So the attorney said, we're only open till 11. Does anyone here really know how late Wendy's was open? I believe it's 2 a.m. So there's nothing like being woken up at 1 o'clock in the morning by a snotty teenager talking into a microphone, asking if they want Biggie fries. Screaming. If you don't have the air conditioner on, you hear this person. You want Biggie fries with it? This is what happens when a commercial piece of property butts up against a residential piece of property. There are all things to deal with. Before I cut the grass in the backyard, I have to pick up all the Wendy's wrappers and the cans and bottles that are thrown over. Okay. Not to mention that the dumpster, what did they call it here? Refuge enclosure. That sounds like state-of-the-art trash compactor, doesn't it? It's a dumpster. All right. It is a dumpster. All right. It's right. This dumpster is going to be, and Mitchell knows that, this dumpster is going to be right next to my fence, okay? I already live next to Mr. Giannini's parking lot. He knows it, I know it, it's already built. That's the parking lot that was approved. So be it, it's done, right? If I sit on my deck, you're the parking lot. That's really close, all right? But that's done, that's a done deal, right? I don't say that, I'm not gonna come here full of hatred or whatever. I know a lot of my neighbors are probably driving past my house. What's wrong with them? Why don't they have a sign? Why don't they have sticks and signs?
Not at all.
Well, I hope not.
Not at all.
We just couldn't do it. You know what they say, walk a mile in my shoes. If we got something to say, we say it to who it should be said to. I can't be sticking a sign there. You guys sometimes can call attention to yourselves and say, look at us, we're a resident here. We got the sign because we don't want that stuff. And that's great. we can't stick signs in our property, not because we're ashamed of who we are. We're proud of who we are, me and Janice. But other people don't respect that. So do walk a mile in my shoes, stick a sign there and see if somebody paints something horrible on it, okay? This is the life that we've lived. So we lived in that house at 36 Baylon. We did not sell, we didn't move someplace where they have a gate and a security guard. We lived there. We dealt with the increased traffic. We dealt with whatever, with Wendy's, okay? That lawyer, by the way, when we left the meeting, he shook my hand and said, thanks for coming. Enjoy the hamburgers. Okay, so I'm appealing to the planning board just to consider, right, the fact that that house needs to stay there, okay? It's my neighbor's house. That's what I call it, my neighbor's house. I've waved to my neighbors. I know Brooke and John. I know Matt and Susie, and I know them. I call them by name, okay? And what I'm thinking here is Mitchell has neighbors. He knows all his neighbors. A guy borrowed a wrench from him. He had burgers in the backyard on the barbecue. He knows each of his neighbors. I'm just appealing to that thought from the heart. I don't have papers in front of me and codes, and it's just that I don't think that Mitchell would come to you guys and ask you if he could knock down his neighbor Steve's house that he just moved out of. Because it's like right over there. Because isn't his neighbor Bob going to say, Mitchell, what the hell are you doing? Wait a minute, I live here. I don't think Mitchell would do it on his block. All right, because he has neighbors, whatever their names are. And we have neighbors. Mitchell is our neighbor, all right? Like it or not, he's our neighbor. And I'm not saying he's a horrible person. I don't want to come up here full of hate. When you've lived my life, you're very cautious of how quickly you hate, how quickly you point the finger. Do I agree with all of this? No. No, I don't agree with it. All right? I didn't agree with Wendy's. And I hope the outcome is a little different here today. But I'm not saying he's a bad man. I'm saying he's probably a construction genius. And let's face it, he has the Midas touch. God bless him. I don't begrudge him that. He's probably worked hard or whatever, whether he's had projects, obviously, that butt up against other residential parcels. He's had to deal with those people in those houses where he built, all right? He's had to come to more than one planning meeting, I'm sure, on different bills that he's created. He's had to deal with people like us, just with different names on different blocks. Whether they wound up happy with the outcome or whether they wound up unhappy with the outcome, I don't know. And I don't want to hate him. I don't like the fact that I don't want to come down my driveway and see one of his crew in that big stupid bulldozer I've been looking at, sitting on my deck the entire summer, listening to it, looking at it. I don't want to see that bulldozer come down and knock down my neighbor's house, and neither do any of my other neighbors. We got two little baby girls living across the street. I'm afraid for their safety. I'm afraid for me and my wife that's 70 years old backing out of our driveway. I am afraid of that. So as I said, I do live next door to one of Mitchell's parking lots. And yes, he is going to put up a fence, but this other thing with the house, I don't want to, I would say, Mitchell, you're not a terrible person. I don't know you, so I can't judge you. And that's not for me to do the judging. All I can say is maybe you can deal with this, not with that construction genius or that Midas touch. Maybe you could just deal with this with your heart and walk away from 30 Baylon. You could sell it or rent it for much more than you purchased it for. I don't know if you want to do that. I don't know what you want to do, but I don't want to look next door where I used to wave to my neighbors by name and say, oh, there's my neighbor. It's a Chevy. a Buick, a Jeep. Oh, there's my Jeep neighbor. I don't know who those are cars, those are people going in and out, right next to the house. So, you know, when I die and I leave my house to my kids, they're gonna say, Mom, thanks, what's that? You know, so my point, just 32 years after fighting to stay there in that residential area with all those neighbors around me, the way we chose. I haven't worked since March. We're just struggling to try and keep our house. We shouldn't be here a week before Christmas. Some of us can barely dig out of our driveways in the middle of a global pandemic. People, what the hell are we doing here? This has to end now. Now. Let's respect one another. Let's not, don't be Wendy's. Don't be the guys from Wendy's, please. I don't want to shake your hand and say, good, yeah, look at the parking lot. I know a lot of people came up here very angry, and they're looking at me sitting over there, and I live, bang, right next to it. If you enlarge that picture over there, you know, you probably see my garbage pail. That's just the fact. 32 years after buying that house, after fighting to protect our safety, our security, and our happiness, me and my wife should not have to do that again. That's all I'm saying. So think it over. Mitchell can think it over. I can't address him, but I know he's over there. Like I said, I don't want to hate him. I just wanted to reconsider, say, all right, you know, and is that going to happen? I don't know. The last time I stood here, we didn't have any civic associations. We didn't have anybody standing with us, right? There was nobody. We just said, we don't want that Wendy's. And they were like, yeah, that's nice. You know, so like I said, nobody else here lives next to Mitchell's parking lot. You're fighting about the other parking lot. I already live next to a parking lot. All right. Yes, when there's a nice fence there, I won't probably be able to see them. All of my new neighbors in Mitchell's big building can see me and my wife having coffee on the deck. Not that anybody really wants to see that. Nobody wants to see a couple of old lesbians drink coffee. So all of the people that he rented to, and I hope they're nice people, okay, you know, I know people wanted me to come up here and bang and yell and scream and say he's a bastard, but I'm not. I can't do that, all right? I live in that little house. Somebody lived there. Just give me a new, I just want Mitchell to call me and say, hey, babe, I sold the house. These are your neighbors. Maybe I could say, please, like I said, I don't begrudge him anything. I really don't. I know you want me to hate him, and I can't. And my house is sitting practically, it's been sitting next to one of his bulldozers all summer long. We've heard nothing but noise. And I know that in, what was that? Refuge enclosure is going to be like right smack there. And I hope that they maintain it. But I will mention one other thing. Everybody talking, oh, well, where's the garbage going to go? Anybody who doesn't live there, I hate to tell you what time that truck comes. 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Do you know the kind of noise? Have you ever been around a truck picking up a dumpster? It's like he's picking up a Chevy and throwing it across the lot. You're sound asleep, and this truck is there. Not to mention the big truck from Wendy's delivering the frozen burgers or whatever he's delivering, a gigantic truck, idling for an hour and a half. Idling. If you open your bedroom window, you could smell nothing but that fumes. That's what happened with Wendy's. I don't know what's going to happen here, but the plans already show that Via Janice get the dumpster, and they get that one parking lot. I don't know. That's all I have to say. I applaud my neighbors for all the work that they have put in. I think they deserve a hand. They got the signs, they got the letters, they got the emails and the petitions, and some of them don't even live on Baylon. But I do. I'm just a stone's throw away from that little house over there. That's all I have to say. I don't want to fight again. It's 32 years later. Already earned that right to be where I am in the residential area. We're sharing this one little piece of this planet. That's what we are. We should be more concerned. None of us should be here now. None of you should be here now. You should be home protecting your families and praying that your families and your friends all stay alive and stay intact. There are more important things than this. This is important to all of us because we live there. We want this to stop today. We want this to stop. We don't want to come back here. Okay? Hopefully some of us will be alive then. God knows what's happening now. Why are we here a week before Christmas in the middle of a global pandemic, asking you to give us something we've already earned?
Thank you.
Thank you. George McDougal. Richard Hanley. Okay, Ann Beck. Great. Bill Ketchum.
No.
Stephen, oh, I'm sorry. Stephen Beck.
Right here, Steve.
Just talk about it.
We got our civic, you guys from us. I
Okay.
can say one more thing,
Ah.
just one thing.
I'm gonna let you come up here. Even the rules are
brief.
one shot. You have to come to the microphone.
I'll be as brief as can be.
Okay.
The signs, the civic associations, the people banding together, it's our last best hope. Because sitting quiet and hoping everybody's gonna do the right thing isn't quite enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anthony Civillo.
Name and address for the record.
Hi, Anthony Saravillo, 274 West Riviera Drive, Londoners.
Trying to tell the truth.
Yeah, sure. Not as good as you guys. How's that? Anyway, basically, I don't want to repeat what everybody said. I worked for 40 years for a public utility, and I dealt with a lot of different towns, especially Brookhaven. And in the 70s and 80s, a lot of this was going on in that town, and that's where they got the name Brookhaven. And believe it or not, there's a lot of residents in the town of Athens that are looking at you guys the same way. What's going on? Nobody can give us an answer. And also, somebody asked about the town, you have this building. Has the town been in there and inspect the building? Are there 2-bedroom apartments actually done already?
I don't
We
know.
should be able, you should have that answer. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
But you don't.
I don't know that. There are inspections that go on through the course of the construction, different types of things, plumbing, electrical, so on and so forth. There is not a final CO on the building, and that's when the people go through and put the final.
With
CO
all due
on.
respect, I built my house on West Riviera in 2007. I had inspectors there every 2 weeks, checking everything, looking at this, looking at that, looking at the structure. How could your inspectors not know? The building is almost done. They're moving furniture in, and you don't know if 2 bedrooms are already completed.
They're not approved.
I didn't say that.
I know that, but that's what I can tell you, that they're not
Well,
approved.
why
I
is
haven't
that?
been in.
Why can't you guys tell us, yes, they did do it, and
I'll
we're,
find out.
we're in that issue of discussing it with you.
When the applicant come back up, I will find out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Monroe. Will Clark. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, good morning. My name is Kathy Monroe. Can you hear me? Yep. I'm at 13 Kent Place in Amity Harbor.
Okay. And you're trying to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what's that called?
Let's
at this point, it's gotta be upsetting to you guys as well, to hear everything that's going on.
Microphone.
Okay. It's upsetting to me to see, all of the people coming up, and these people live here. And at some point, you have to consider the views of the community and stop giving special privileges to the builders. If I owned that piece of property and I wanted to, where the building is, and I wanted to extend my property, I would not be able to put it right on top of Montauk Highway. It wouldn't happen. I would be turned down. But somehow the builders seem to get whatever they want. Also, if I had a driveway just on that one site, and I wanted to extend my driveway, 10th Avenue would be over measuring. You can't have it more than this amount. I would not be able to buy a property free from me and put some giant lot in there. It just never would happen. I'm not a builder though, and that's why. I feel so bad for everybody who lives on that road. I used to go up to Fine Fair. I stopped going there because the traffic just in and out of there is ridiculous. In and out of Baylon. Before that building was there, it was ridiculous. I actually physically saw a woman get killed in Fine Fair. She got pinned underneath the car. And nobody knew she was underneath the car because there was so much traffic in and out, business. This is before that building went up. It just needs to stop, with adding more and more and more. And then this whole, taking a residential property and now putting a parking lot, add more density. It's just not good. And at some point we have to be heard. It just can't continue like this. It's just not safe anymore. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Will Clark. Margaret Braggart.
Name and address for the record, please.
Margaret Braga, 280 Baylon Avenue.
I do affirm to tell the truth.
I do.
What would you like to tell us?
I feel like this is not my first rodeo.
You gotta try just to pull that mic up. Yeah, there you
Hello, testing.
go. That's right.
Yeah. Back in the late 90s, early 2000, we had a problem with the building department, the planning department, and the zoning board. They built a 3-story house on our block, 289 Baylon Avenue. All the officials went by it and nobody said anything. We called. They said it was a dormer. Well, what they did was they jacked it up every night. So eventually, maybe about 3 weeks in, the garage was on the 2nd story. Okay. Finally, after years, somebody looked into it. They didn't have the permits. They had a dormer. I feel like we're doing the same thing again. People are building before they get the permits. Before they have demo permits, and that's what's happening. It's just a free-for-all for everybody. I have a question about the entrance and exit of Baylon, on Baylon Avenue. They're saying it's only a right into that entrance on Baylon Avenue?
Correct.
So what we were told, the exit on Tamarick Road is no left. So what you're gonna do, if you wanna go to left, you're gonna make a right back on Baylon Avenue, come back down, cross Dock and come up Jervis. Or you're gonna make more traffic and cut through the parking lot to get the light to go west. So it's not that it's just gonna be an in, because the people that wanna make it go west onto Montauk Highway, there is no left, not that they're gonna obey it, are gonna come around back down Baylon Avenue, cut across up Jervis to go west. This is unacceptable. I just don't know how it even got this far. A house between, parking lot between 2 houses, there's no sidewalks there. There's kids going down the park all the time. They're not gonna know that's a parking lot. And from the pictures, the street's not even that wide. That's, in a perfect picture world, that would be great. Absolutely not. You need to go back over and see what this town of Babylon has created with this and your mistakes. Don't go back to the 90s and the early 2000s when we had to fight the board to get that house ripped down because it wasn't approved. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Elizabeth Ranker.
Name and address for the record.
My name is Elizabeth Ranker. I live at 308 Grand Central Avenue in Amityville. I have a nephew and a son who live in Amity Harbor. I've been watching this whole thing before it was even built. And I remember the planning board where his presentation of his apartments were. And I remember at that time, they had a den. Planning board picked up on it. They said, redo your plans. We know what dens become. They become 2-bedroom apartments. Well, what happened to that now? That was decided before. Now we changed our mind on it. With regard to the building itself, I don't understand when something is being built because I'm not an architect, I'm not a builder. But when that concrete was poured for that building, I said, what the heck is the setback? It's almost on the sidewalk. Nobody looked before it was built. Nobody comes to inspect. Variances are done and nobody, who's watching it? Who is watching a hen house while the wolf is building something and then ask for forgiveness? I'm tired of people doing stuff without permits, and 30 is a perfect example. I go on Baylon a lot. I work with the girl that lives down the street. I said, what the heck is going on at 30? The garage is gone, the fence is gone, and there's a huge construction thing in the back. That's residential property. What is going on? I called the town of Babylon. Did I get an answer? No. No answer. And then all of a sudden, oh, he can tear it down. This is after the fact. If any one of us did that, we'd be denied. And it doesn't only happen there, it happened next door to my son. Oh, we felt bad for the old guy. You couldn't talk to the board. You could not talk to the planning board. You had to talk to the lawyer. After he built a crooked foundation with no permit, oh, we felt bad, so we're going to give him the permit. That's BS. And this is what happens. Why is it happening in town of Babylon? Someone tell me why. As far as the closeness, I drive Merrick Road every day going on my way to Babylon Village. I almost got killed there because a car had to come out. Now, they have to pull out into the right-hand lane where I was in order to see. Ridiculous. Totally ridiculous that that was allowed to be built. I don't think it's even 10 feet from the road. It's probably 7. Skinny little sidewalk. Okay, we added a slate. You can walk on that sidewalk and touch the building. How is that allowed? It's against the law to do that. So someone is not following through. You give out variances. And by the way, I think the variance was done on the old building, not even that thing. It's built there, that's a monstrosity. And you wonder why everyone is banding together? I said, if we don't band together now, it's going to happen all the way down. You look at how many properties are for sale. I hope he does not get a one of them. And I hope the plans, when they go for buildings going up, they have the stuff back there supposed to by law. And someone watches the process because it's not being done. You need to think about everybody in these neighborhoods before a whole South Shore community is destroyed by what you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Judy Gentile. Jerry Siragusa. How about Brooke Balzano?
Came up earlier.
Thank you. Then I have an Eileen, no last name.
Name and address for the record, please.
Eileen Malloy, 100 Jervis Avenue.
Okay, you're from tell the truth.
Yes.
What would you like to tell us?
I've been at these meetings before. I'm just here to state that I am in opposition of the parking lot being erected and the house being torn down. Why do we have zoning laws? It's to prevent overdevelopment of parcels and properties. This zoning board gave the variance for the parking lot. And I beseech you, I implore you to not give the variance. The zoning laws are set for a reason, and it's to protect our community life. This is a residential street, and I'm begging you to not give the variance. Think about it from your own spot. If this was next door to your house, would you give the approval? So I stand with this community, with the civic associations and the homeowners against parking lot at 30 Baylon.
Thank you.
Attorney Steve. Okay, I have, I don't know if it's a Mr. or a Mrs. Butcher.
Hi, my name is Lisa Booker. I live at 265 Baylon Avenue.
Did you affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
What would you like to tell us?
I just wanted to say that, like everybody else, we're very opposed to this building and this parking lot. Having just a right-hand turn into that parking lot from Baylon Avenue still creates a huge hazard as everybody tries to turn onto Baylon from Montauk Highway. You can't see past the building. With the other traffic light just to the east, people do cause a gridlock situation, and now you have people trying to get out past. It's already 2 lanes and a turning lane. One car stops, one doesn't, as people are creeping out trying to see. It's a terrible situation as it stands now. And to add any kind of entrance or exit from Baylon into this proposed site is just going to increase that. And, this whole climate of asking for forgiveness rather than permission has to stop. And that's what the zoning board is, charged with, trying to stop this overcrowding. My biggest concern with this is that it sets a precedence for the entire community. This is a residential community. These are single-family houses. These are good neighbors. When you put a parking lot in the middle of all that, the biggest fear is 5 years from now, 10 years from now, it's going to be a house, a bar, a marina, a bait and tackle station, a deli, 2 more houses, a storage facility for boats. Where do you draw the line? Residential neighborhoods should be kept residential, bottom line. It should not be allowed to happen, because once you change the aesthetics, once you set that precedent, it's just a downward spiral. And that's the biggest concern that I have personally for living on Baylon is we moved here to have a community, a South Shore waterfront community feel where our neighbors help each other, where our neighbors are friends, where we go borrow things from them and sometimes return them and sometimes don't, and that's okay. You don't get that when you have huge apartment buildings with transient people who are renters who come and go, and the parking lot situation. They don't treat the neighborhood as if it was theirs. All of our neighbors, this community treats this neighborhood as if it is ours. And we want you to allow that to continue to happen. Please do not let this move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's the last name on our list. Is there anybody here who we haven't called that would like to speak? I'm gonna break my own rule. Anybody? I'm gonna give you a second opportunity. Right there, you. Yeah, come on up. You have nothing else? No, you have anything to add?
I just, on the record, I hope you know you are a welcomed addition to our community. And sign or no sign, we want you in our community. And I really hope you understand that. We're fighting for not only you, but everybody on our block and everybody in the South Shore community here.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Randall. I have a bunch of questions if you will write them down. So
Sure.
Go through them on first, all right? As far as the traffic study, when has this traffic study been done or doing, or when's it happening? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Be happy. As far as the traffic study, for the traffic light, when was that being done, or when is it going to be done, or what's
So the traffic study is being performed by Cameron Engineering in conjunction with the town of Babylon. So that is really a question that I'm not privy to the answer. We were asked to contribute to the fund for the study, but we were not, for I think obvious and transparent reasons, we're not hiring Cameron to conduct the traffic study. It's actually on behalf of the town of Babylon. So I would assume that the planning commissioner would have a better response as to where it's at and the timing. But I mean, over the years working with Cameron Engineering and based on the discussions we had during the departmental review, they understand that we're in a pandemic and what, the effects that winter has, school closings have, the pandemic has. So I believe it's supposed to be an ongoing broader study.
Okay, because the residents are quite correct, I live in Copac, so Baylon Avenue in the summertime is not Baylon Avenue in the winter time by any stretch of the imagination, so.
Yes.
Okay, just going on, the air conditioning units and the generator, were they placed where they were supposed to be placed, or were they moved, or what was the situation with that?
As far as I know, for the AC units, we did not receive a summons or any kind of citation as to them being in an improper location.
But there are only 6 on the plan.
How many units were on the plan? How many units are there? I can't have you on like that, I apologize.
I believe that there's 16.
There's 16?
Well, there's 16 units, so each unit is gonna need its own.
And the plan? 16 on the plan.
Thank you. I have the landscape plan up here with me.
All right, we're clarified on.
The proposed plan, per se. Not the approved plan, you're pulling a proposed plan that now has the 16 on there because we brought that up as planning. Their current plans have 6 units on.
I'm not understanding the question.
How many were approved?
There should be one unit per, one
Right.
AC unit or one unit for each one of the place, right?
Yes, that's my understanding of how it would work.
Brian, there's 16?
Yeah, there's 16 on the text plan for looking at right now.
All right, so we'll check into that and see.
Yeah, I'll look into that, but that's my understanding.
The original plan has 6.
Okay. Hello?
He was addressing me, I was just.
It's not the way it works.
I mean, it doesn't affect the variance relief, but we will look into it.
Okay, so I'm being told that there was a discrepancy on the plans, and that's why the plans were changed. There should have been 16, they weren't on there, there was 6 on there in the original plan. You're right.
16 units.
What about the generator? There's one for each unit.
I get it.
That makes sense. Okay.
No, I get that, but 16 units versus the 6 that were proposed on the plan, that's 10 additional air conditioning units on a property line under a bedroom.
Okay.
That's where we're getting.
Okay.
It wasn't approved.
On plans now.
Wasn't approved, we don't know about it, or?
Okay, we ain't gonna keep screaming out. We're not gonna keep going back and forth on this. I'm going to go through this. We're gonna go through the questions, all right? And I'll give you an opportunity at the end to address us again, okay? Okay.
I mean, I see the location of the generator. I don't know if Mr. Esposito wants to take the mouse and kind of circle where it is. That might be helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
One more thing. I'm sorry, but one more thing. We're looking at a proposed set of plans here. We're talking about the plans that he's been working off of currently, which do not include the 16 air conditioning units, which shows the generator in a different place. That's what we are talking about right now. That's
Okay.
part of the stop work order that's been issued on, because there were discrepancies.
Okay.
between the plan and what he was doing.
Okay. Let's talk about the garbage truck, what time it comes, how will they go in, come out, so on and so forth.
So my understanding is the way the sanitation truck would operate is that it would be able to loop through the site. So it would not have to back onto Baylon. I'm told that it would be able to make the clearance and go around. And
Garbage
then,
truck's gonna make it under that?
that's what I'm being told, that they can make it underneath that.
And what time does the garbage truck come? Or do you know that question?
We don't know yet, and that's really up to the town of Babylon, how they want to do it. I know that at another site, in Copac over at Hidden Harbor, it comes between 8 and 9. But that's something that we can discuss.
Okay. What about the parking on the corner? Trucks are being parked there and people, when they make the turn, the trucks are in the way.
So
What's
for the
going on
past,
with that?
so for the past couple of months, every time we've done something at the site, we've actually emailed the town. We emailed the planning commissioner along with the supervisor and the deputy supervisor to advise what we're doing, whether there's a delivery. I can tell you most recently, there was a cabinet delivery being done. They were being stored off-site, and then the property owner was gonna start incurring charges for storage and wanted to store them on his own site, and we were given permission to do so. So we were told not to park in front of store 30 Baylon. We did not want to park in front of other residents' homes. So we, well, not me, but the delivery truck went as close to the building as possible. And I presume it was on a corner for about an hour, but emails were sent to alert the town that this was being done, and they were then sent when it was completed.
Okay. As far as,
But there will be, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, to interrupt, but there will be signs posted, I believe, in the future saying no parking for that stretch from the corner.
that was no parking originally there, right?
There's no sign there now. I actually went there, but there would be signs posted. I can't speak to whether someone took a sign down, but
Yeah, right. As far as the 2 bedrooms apartments, number one, are they done? Or are they even started?
the applicant was issued a stop work order for not complying with plans that were on file. So there's now a summons in district court.
So he was doing that prior to seeking approval?
I believe that there was some initial work done and the town wanted it stopped, and it was stopped, and it's pending this application.
Okay, so now I know because this board took the dens out of the original plans.
Correct.
So how are we turning these apartments from 1 bedroom to 2 bedroom? How are they getting the 2nd bedroom? That's my question.
Originally, it was approved with an open floor plan for the living room kitchen area, so it would be an open concept. And so to get a 2nd bedroom, there would be demising walls. I don't know, do we have those floor plans? So for example, Mr. Esposito has one of them up right now on how it would look. This is what is on file as proposed.
And there's 6 of these
Correct.
and 10 1-bedroom.
It would be 10 1-bedroom, that's the application, 10 1-bedroom and 6 2-bedroom.
So the 1 bedrooms then just have the open floor plan. This one is not going to have that. And these ones are going to be 2 bedrooms.
Right, they would be framed differently.
That's where we're
correct.
getting the room to put in the bedrooms. How big are the bedrooms?
Um, I didn't bring it all up with me. Can I go grab my file? Wait, actually, sorry. So there's a second bedroom proposed. So one of the bedrooms is approximately 14. Let's see, you figure it's about 14 by 12, 13. And there's a master bedroom, and then there would be a second bedroom.
That's what?
So we have one bedroom, for example, this one, which is a unit on the second floor, is 11 and a half, 11 and a half feet wide, about approximately 12 to 13 feet long. And then there's an open living area that would go into the kitchen area with some seating on an island. And then you have your usual washer dryer, your bathroom. And then the master bedroom, which is at one point it's about 14 by 14 feet, 8 inches wide, but then it kind of narrows to 11 feet, 8 inches wide. It kind of creates a depth of about 14 feet, 10 inches.
So these, and just curious, I don't know if it makes any difference really. These two bedrooms, are they gonna be on what floor? Will they be on the first floor, second floor?
I believe the second and third floor is where they're being proposed,
Again, that really,
kind of a mix.
yeah. Let's talk about the snow and the snow removal and where it's gonna go and that kind of thing.
So I'm told that the snow would be trucked out of the site and would be brought over to another site over on Ocean Avenue in the village of Lindenhurst. There's an industrial site that the property owner owns there that he does truck some snow to.
So nothing will be piled up
No.
there, everything will be taken away.
Correct, it would be taken off site.
And also the sidewalks, and particularly on Montauk Highway and stuff, where, you know, plows would put it up onto the sidewalk. That's a part of what he would keep cleaning.
He would have to maintain that,
He has
correct.
to maintain that. Okay, now, we don't know who's moving into these things and, you know, does it add to the schools or, you know, kids and so on and so forth? Do you got any feedback on that? Do you have any information on that or?
I mean, typically, Mr. Genie, the rentals that he finds are either singles, younger couples, or divorced persons, some elderly first people, sometimes people just that are, you know, either newly divorced, newly separated, looking for an apartment, sometimes a young professional. You know, he has a site over on Wellwood Avenue on the corner of Wellwood and Montauk that he has some young professionals living there. When I say young professionals, I just mean young people in their 20s who are just kind of starting out. But sometimes you do have a couple that maybe just moved in together. He doesn't normally see a lot of families moving in per se, but people do like to have the second bedroom as whether they use it for an office space or they use it as just extra space for themselves, or I guess in this scenario, if they were a couple and had a child, they would be able to obviously live there.
Okay, I think this is my last question on traffic flow. So going out onto Montauk, there is a no left turn there. Is that correct?
Right.
So then going out of onto Baylon, that's a right turn. Oh, no, that's just an exit.
It
I'm
was
sorry,
a right
just-
in. Originally,
right
it was
in.
proposed as a right in. Then there was feedback from both the town traffic consultant and planning that they would have preferred it to be a full service curb cut, meaning in and out. But after the planning board hearing and hearing feedback from the community as well, and then speaking with the town again, we were asked to revert back to the right turn in, so that at least there's that sort of motion, that sort of circulation.
Okay.
He's open to either scenario. It's just we did what we were asked.
Right. I think somebody brought this up and it does seem a little confusing that if you're gonna come in, make a right turn off of Baylon into the property, and then you can only make a right turn out on Montauk, that, you know, how do you get west? Basically, you
Right.
go to Great Neck and come around, I guess.
Right, it was something that was thought about originally too, when we originally had the ingress and egress on Montauk. So we had thought this would improve site circulation if we limit it to right in. you're correct, it kind of ends up doing the same thing, except it does give people another, shot at the entrance, so to speak.
Okay, correct. All right, that's the questions I kind of took away from the residents' comments, outside of the fact, of course, that, they're not happy with the parking lot there, and they're also not happy with these being converted to two-bedrooms. You have any, final comments?
I mean, only that, just to kind of give an explanation, we, as town policy, were asked not to ask for a change of zone. So I mean, that's why we are in a split zone situation. And in the business zone, you are permitted to do certain things. So I know that when Mr. Costantino was up here, he was saying about, the substantial variance relief that had been granted. But when you look at the variances that were granted in the zone, they were granted within, they weren't as substantial as they might appear. Had we been rezoned into multi-res, perhaps we'd have a different scenario. So it's just really my own exploration, as far as how the zoning goes. And we did submit the financial proofs for the use variance on the original application, and this would be merged with that. So we do believe that that would further encompass it, and that this isn't really a self-created hardship because of the planning board condition. If we weren't able to procure additional parking, I would probably go back to the planning board and ask them to lift that condition.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Come on back up, I'm gonna give you the last one. I know you're passionate about this, and I try to keep order in the meeting and try and do things.
And I get it, I
like
just,
people shouting out.
our residents,
Oh, yeah, you're on the microphone.
sorry, our residents just want to be heard, and I just gotta say, Ms. Blanda did some great lawyer talk there around your questions a couple of times there. The issue of parking on the corner, it was a curb cut with no parking sign there before.
When the old building was there.
Correct. When he demolished the building, the one sign that came down on that corner was a no parking sign. It's still no parking to this day, whether there's a sign there or not. In the town code, that's no parking. So whether he's doing work by the okay of the planning board or not, the vehicles are still parking there, causing a hazardous situation. So the residents are now being tasked with policing this project. We're the ones that have to call Mr. Schaefer and send emails to the planning board every time there's a vehicle there, and they leave them there all day. The work that we as the residents was told was approved recently during the stop work order was putting in a fire sprinkler. And while that was going on, the gas company was there, the plumber was there, they put in all the gas meters, and there's more work than what we're being told should be going on. So now we are then looking at the project and going, wait, there's stuff going on here. Now we have to go and report it. The problem is that we're reporting this. So now we're just complaining neighbors, but the town is not doing their own job in policing the site. The air conditioning issue, I'm going to get to you on that, because that, as an air conditioning professional in my past life, I saw it going down. I saw the pipes coming out of the building. I saw the disconnect boxes going on the back walls of the building. And I looked at the plans, and there were 6 square boxes that were labeled air conditioning. I brought it up to the planning board. I was told the air conditionings can be put anywhere on the site. I corrected her in saying that the disconnect units, the electrical units, were already mounted on the building. And therefore, the units have to go within reach of the disconnect units. These are all things that me as a non-professional, non-town employee shouldn't have to be doing. The inspector should have seen from the very beginning that these things were going on. So again, we implore you, send somebody in there to go walk around. The 3rd floor, the 2nd floor in the back corner over Wendy's, that unit sure as hell from the outside looks like it's done. So that's going to be my final word here. And I appreciate the board's time. I appreciate all my residents' time, the other civic associations that have stood behind us as a new group is extremely, it makes us feel like we actually have a leg to stand on, because yes, we're one small block in this town, but this is a bigger issue than just this one block. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Thank everybody for coming down. We'll take everything under consideration. We'll close the hearing, reserve decision. I am going to keep the record open. You're going to bring me some more petitions, correct? I will keep the record open for that. Okay, thanks for coming down. Have a good holiday. I'll have it open. There's no amount. You know, whatever you bring in is, you know, more is, you know, shows what the community feels. Okay, I'm gonna keep the record open until the 7th of January.
Yeah. Accepted. You don't need a police escort.
I've been worse.
Do you want this?
Just gotta go back to the record.
Put a question mark. Ones that didn't. Yeah, the ones that didn't speak.
Dave, I need you to sign these.
Colleen, the ones that didn't speak, I have a question mark next to.
Thank you.
Thank
I need you to sign a couple for next year. Thank you.
All right. What are we putting down?
I guess 2.5.
2.5. Today's the 19th.
Mr. Chairman, we do have the remainder of the agenda,
Oh, yeah.
if the board would like to.
Okay.
I'll review for the board.
Thank
Thank you.
you. No, I don't think, we went through all of these Thursday night, right? Except the one we held over from Thursday night?
There are two that the board could move on if they were inclined to do so.
Okay, what are they?
Okay, so from page 3 until page 7, all of those matters are being reserved. There was the application of Michelle Penelosi. She's located in North Babylon. This was the matter, it was purged twice. I mean, it was re-advertised on a mistake on our part. So if the board was interested to move that, it would be helpful to allow her to go forward. It was just an issue with the front setback.
Okay.
And the issue on the portico, whether it was advertised correctly. So she was heard actually twice.
Okay, so, but we had no problem with that, right? It was
Correct.
basically.
And that application is 20-139.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve application 20-139.
There were no conditions.
No conditions. Okay.
And I'm sorry, the second. Thank you.
All in favor? Okay.
I think I abstained. I don't know if I was there. What was the date?
It was just last week and then probably 4 weeks before that.
I wasn't there. I'll abstain.
Okay, then we can't move.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Want me to move? I'm gonna remove, I reviewed the notes.
It's all right, then,
Then there's nothing else we can do.
okay, right. There was the other matter.
There was the other matter that
That
I
you
wanted
were-
to try and approve, but you know what, it's gonna have to. wait.
Okay, then the only other matter was the review of the minutes of December 3rd and the correspondence that you announced at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, we'll hold those.
So then we would just
Sorry.
ask for a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
John makes that motion. Who wants to second that motion? John East.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry
right,
Christmas,
yes,
thank you.
yes.
Yes.